Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Coach's Corner University podcast. I am your host, Paul O'Need, and we are back from the holiday season. I hope you all had an amazing time with friends and family and also took some time for yourselves. Most of the audience here are coaches, and it's important for us to realize that it's okay to take time off. And in most cases, if you're doing a great job for your clients, they will encourage you to do so. My wife and I took our first week completely off since last year when we went to Puerto Rico. We just got back from Mexico. We went to Playa del Carmen for the week, ate a bunch of food, got a tan. So, the fat loss was offset by the tan. So we kind of still looked the same when we got back. But today we are joined by a great friend of mine who his husband has been on the podcast a couple times now, Cody Miller. If you're interested in listening to Cody talk about fitness in a very metaphysical kind of way, you're welcome to go back and listen to his episodes. But today I'm joined by his better half, Cayt Miller. Cayt, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Paul. Thank you so much for having me. I am honored and thankful to be here. Like we mentioned, I'm nervous, and I just want to extend the thanks that you are as a coach and a mentor. You encourage us, you believe in us, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
stretch us. And I think that's exactly what a good coach is. So I'm honored and thankful that you're trusting me with your podcast for the day, but it'll be great. I'm
Hey, listen, if
excited
it
to chat.
sucks, I just won't post it.
Yeah,
Just
that's what I said. I said worst case scenario, he doesn't post it.
um, so listen, I've known Cody since I was thinking about this. I've known Cody since
Mhm.
2010. So
Yeah.
running on, 16 years of friendship. And I know the the quality of human that would come into his life and change it so positively speaks to you as a person. But I don't know much about you. And I think sharing your story would be a phenomenal way to introduce the listeners to you, introduce the listeners to Hoopy and the company that you started. So I'd love to know, like, what brought you to where you are here today, sitting on the podcast with me.
Yeah. So I'll start, I think, a little bit with this is, I guess, a roundabout, but so yeah, Cody and I, we currently live in Alabama. We run Hoopie Strength and Conditioning. It is an online coaching system, and he takes on primarily the people that want to do crazy, bold goals of performance. I really have a passion and love to work with women who basically want to steward their life well and pursue excellence in the things that we're doing on a daily basis and showing up fully alive, being an active participant in their life, not sitting on the sidelines. These are some things that I walked through as growing up and going through my fitness endeavors. I think I always chased performance as a form of value and worthiness. And over time, it has shifted into I love to perform, I love to compete still, but I really love to steward my life well and see wins throughout the day, um, go about core values, and live out a very intentional life
Mhm.
that leads into everything that we do. Hoopie Strength and Conditioning. So Hoopie stands for it's a term for someone from the Ohio Valley, where we're both from. It means someone who's industrious, someone who is selfless, and someone who is authentic. So those are the three core values of Hoopie Strength and Conditioning as our brand, as our coaching system, things that we hope to carry forward wherever we go. We don't know if we'll ever live back home again, but they're
Hopefully not.
things, yeah. We love to travel and live and see the world, so we don't know, but we want to carry those values, and we want to encourage others that they're values that everyone can live. Um, so that's Hoopy Strength and Conditioning. That is the part of my story where I am now. I grew up an athlete. I've loved moving. I've loved nutrition and fitness and all of the things since I can really remember. Since I was a baby, we were doing, mom and baby swim lessons, and then it was dance, and then right into swimming as soon as I could be an athlete. Um, it started out as a good, healthy curiosity and for fun and a way to be active. But I think earlier than I would like to admit, and I think it's common for a lot of women, especially, but it turned into an obsession with just getting smaller. How
Mm.
little can I eat? just getting smaller, basically. It turned
Yeah.
into that for years. I want to say sixth, seventh grade, which to me, that seems so young for someone to be counting calories and obsessed with that.
It is. I mean, it is and it isn't. Like more so now than ever. I'm seeing it,
Yeah.
especially when I work with moms. I see like their, how do I put this? If communicated incorrectly, the act of counting calories to a young child could be seen as very disordered, right? They're like, oh, mom is counting calories. Mom wants to be skinny.
Mm-hmm.
So a big conversation that we have when we're talking about, hey, how do I bring this new thing into my family unit is, well, you're counting calories so that you can be the best version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're so it's focused again on the process, which is something I want to get into with you, but keep going. I think that you're hitting on a lot of good topics.
Yeah, I think shifting the focus is huge. And, just back to that, especially women my age, I'll be 30 soon. It seemed like something at that time, but my mom, aunts, it was just constantly hopping on a different diet
Mm-hmm.
and not having that intention. I'm sure it was out there and, best intentions on the women in my life, but it was definitely prevalent and seen as this is a good pursuit of health. Um, Going into college, so I wouldn't say, I'll just say it was disordered eating going into college.
Sure.
Um, High school ended. I was done with team sports. I was competing and swimming through that. Went off to college, was terrified of the freshman 15 and just the thought of coming home and being like, oh, you're the person that gained weight. So that was a thought of, I don't have a team sport, but I'm going to do as much cardio as possible and eat as little as possible. So that continued there. By sophomore year, it was, unbearable. You can't continue that and sustain that. So it turned into a really bad few years of binge eating, which that was, I was so unhealthy at that point. That was probably the peak of just really not enjoying life and not living intentionally at all. It was a part of my story and a terrible few years of living that way and just chasing something, living throughout the week with not eating a lot, but still trying to perform and then overeating and whatnot. But this is also the time at the end of sophomore year, I found powerlifting.
Oh,
At the time, I would say it saved me per se, but it really shifted my focus from how little can I get to a totally. I was so blessed with a great group of people that I got to powerlift with, but the focus was what can you do? What can your body do? How can you perform? What are you capable of? And I had never. I've seen strength training. We did some dry land with swimming. I, did some push-ups and basic things with my dad, but the art of getting strong was very foreign. And that was really when things started to change for the better, I would say. Um, Food was definitely more prevalent. A lot of powerlifters aren't dieting for the most part.
nope,
So it was a
definitely not.
lot of food. And it was good. I wasn't mentally, I think, ready for eating a lot. It was still a mental battle of I have to earn this food, but powerlifting was a great part in shifting the focus.
So how long ago was powerlifting? Because I know now your fitness is very well rounded. Like you're running, you're swimming, you're lifting, you're biking. So at what point did you kind of put powerlifting aside, even temporarily? I know you've discussed kind of going to another meet at some
Yeah.
point. Um, how did your fitness change after powerlifting?
So powerlifting, Cody and I met in 2020. We were preparing for a meet together in 2021.
Okay.
So that was the last time that I was seriously in a prep for powerlifting. Um, it was going to be a month or so after we were going to get married. And this is a side story, but also a lot of what gave me a perspective on values. I My appendix ruptured, and this was about 2 weeks before our wedding.
Oh,
So
I
I was in
remember
the
this.
hospital. Yeah, this is the most pivotal part of my story. I think I don't talk about it often, but when I am reflecting back and trying to think through what has shaped me, this was huge. And I'm sure you can resonate with,
Yeah.
all of your recovery and surgeries. But yeah, I was ready to compete. It was probably going to be my best meet yet. And we knew something was wrong. We went to the ER. I was just getting sick. Went to the ER. They said, you have the stomach virus. You're fine. Go home. Things just kept getting worse. I think 2 days later, we went to an urgent care on a Sunday and said, like, this is not normal. We're not healing at all. They said, go to your PCP tomorrow. That night, we went to the ER again, and they said, you need to have surgery right now. Your appendix has been ruptured for days. We have to get in right now. So I was in the hospital for about 8 days. Hence, I did not do the powerlifting meet. We also missed our wedding day. We got married on, you've been to the farm, haven't you?
Yep.
Yeah. So I got out on Labor Day. We got married on the pond with just our family. It was
Oh,
amazing.
that's lovely.
But I was in the hospital for 8 days, and that was when I realized my core values. I did not have language for them at the time, but I knew it just put into perspective what mattered. Competing was not necessarily one of the things on my brain at the moment. I wanted to spend time with Cody. I wanted to have my health and be able to have time freedom to spend it with the people I love the most. I I really value my relationship with the Lord, and it just put into perspective eternity and not living for short-term moments, and being an active steward of my life and doing things with excellence. So again, I did not have these verbally at the time, but this in the hospital laying there, I wanted to get out and pursue these things.
Oh my
So
God. Yeah.
fast forward some though, we did actually do a powerlifting meet I think it was May of 2020. No, it was May 2024. Last year we did
Okay.
a powerlifting meet. But we were running at the same time. We did a 50K, I think 2 or 3 months prior to it. Yeah, I really enjoy activity. I really enjoy movement. I enjoy being the healthiest I can be now.
I love it. I think, I mean, the most apt place to go with this is, I think dark times reveal more about ourselves than anything. You mentioned the
Absolutely.
two pivotal moments of your life where in college, going through that dark time, realizing that you had a disordered relationship with food and a disordered relationship in the way that you view yourself and your body and the way that you were moving through life. And then having that pivotal moment of rupturing your appendix and being in a hospital bed, like that absolutely resonates with me. I mean, my core values were never more clear than when I was in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? So I think I heard a quote recently that I really loved. It was, "You're never truly alive unless you're going through suffering." And you can apply that in so many different ways, right? You can manufacture suffering in the way that we do with fitness. Like doing a 50-kilometer race is not pleasure, it is
Yeah.
suffering. But to know that you were able to endure through that, I'm sure created some immense joy.
Oh yeah.
Standing under a heavy barbell, worried if you're going to stand up, that's suffering. But when you do stand up and you prove to yourself that you can do it, you never feel more alive. Um, so, I mean, that also comes with it the development of empathy. And I think that is where people miss the mark. They think about these opportunities as self growth opportunities, which they are. But if you are a servant by nature, which all coaches should be servants
Mhm.
by nature, the best way to be able to serve others is to have gone through challenges yourself, persevered, and then be able to pass those lessons on. When you think about the way that you coach now, how much of that empathy carries forward and how do you carry it forward?
Oh yeah. Well, just the first note that you said in there, I think being a servant was not who I was during the
Interesting.
time of college. And I think a lot of that was I don't know which caused which, if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
I was so obsessed with I don't want to say obsessed with myself, but preoccupied with how do I look? What weight am I? What weights, how much am I eating? How many calories am I eating? I was not present at all.
Yeah, I
Now I
resonate
was
there
a
for sure.
good human. I had good intent. I wouldn't say I was a terrible person, but service was not on.
I was a piece of garbage.
Yeah, that's not a great way to explain it, I guess, on a podcast where there's not a whole lot of reference. But just I always think back to this. I was not present. I was not
Yeah.
an active piece of my life. I was so consumed with what I was doing. But now going forward, I definitely think, just walking through things, everyone goes through something hard, and you have to reflect back. I think that's a really great part of trying to figure out your core values, because like I said, even in that dark moment, I knew what mattered. I knew that I want to get out of the hospital and I want to go spend time with Cody, and I want to live, all of these precious moments and be present during them with the people I love and doing meaningful work. But I didn't have words for that at the time. So once we go through these things, I think reflecting back on your story is huge to figuring out
Oh
what your
yeah.
core values are, putting words to them, putting meaning to them, and then helping you live in alignment with that. If we aren't able to verbalize what they are, then we can't live them out in our daily life.
I completely agree. One of my favorite things to have discussions with my clients about, or discussions with my mentees about, is core values. And,
Mm-hmm.
you, myself, and Cody had that conversation of, what are your core values as people? And then what are the core values that you're going to carry into your business and then pass along to your clients? And the reason I have those conversations is I like to distill things down to the most root core of it. So if we talk about purpose, so purpose has to do with, the direction that you're heading, the process that you're undergoing towards something. And a lot of people spend a lot of time doing, but they don't know what bullseye they're throwing their darts
Mm-hmm.
at. And if you don't have that clarity, you don't have purpose.
Yeah.
And so you end up really unfulfilled. And when you feel unfulfilled and lack purpose, you tend to give up your agency. So you use the word stewardship a lot. I love that word. It's not one that I hear often, and we're going to dive into that. But I would use that akin to the way that I use the word agency, right? Being in control
Yeah.
and being the person who makes the decisions in my own life. And unless you have that end goal, the process becomes very muddy. Your decisions end up lacking clarity and alignment. And then you're left feeling unfulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
You give up that agency, and then you're not going to get results. You're not going to be happy when you get wins because they don't mean anything to you. And so when you use the word stewardship and being an active participant in your life, what are some ways that you kind of guide people along this journey? Because that transition from lack of presence, lack of clarity and alignment, to being someone who lives with purpose, that's a steep hill to climb.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a story I've been trying to really sift through myself.
Mm-hmm.
Values do give meaning 100%. If you don't have values, you don't know what you're living for on a daily basis, and they give your life meaning. And to be honest, a lot of life is very monotonous. It's a lot of
Oh yeah.
it's every day doesn't feel like this exciting, amazing day. We're mostly living through moments that seem very trivial, not exciting. They're not the big wins a lot of the time. We have a few of those throughout our
Yeah,
life,
for sure.
but the small things every day, they're making up our life. And I feel very uh, passionate about making your days full of meaning. I believe everyone has meaning and has a purpose. You're made with, incredible value to share. Um, and we have to lean into figuring out what a lot of that is going through your story, figuring out what you have lived through and how you can now go about living that with service. Stewardship, just like you said with agency, I totally agree. I think they do align very well, but I think it's mostly you're able to kind of sift through what is in your control. There's a lot we can't control in life.
Exactly.
what are the things that we can do well? What are the things we can steward and show up with agency, with ownership,
Yeah.
with, full responsibility and take on for ourselves? And then how do we do those things to the best of our ability? I think those are really cool things. They're not easy to measure. That's something that I've been trying to work through, of how do we actually measure these small wins that we're living on a daily basis. And there are ways, there are ways to track it and whatnot. But I think it's at the root of it, having your values and being able to check off. We didn't have this big win of a day, but you can go to sleep at night knowing I showed up with intention. I showed up in accordance to the values that I've set for myself. Spitting off of values, having the non-negotiables that you believe allow you to show up in that
Yep.
value. So they give you direction throughout the day. They bring that meaning and purpose so that you can show up and steward your day with agency, with ownership, all of the things there.
Yeah, there's a lot to pull there because,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that's been hitting for me a lot lately, as the business gets bigger, as projects get bigger, as I'm working with more people, one of the things that I've come to realize is that the wins and the memories that I think back on most fondly wouldn't have registered on my calendar. Right? Like when you think about one thing that the first thing that popped into my mind was when I went home in the fall to drop off Olivia's car. It was a 17-hour drive. It was brutal. But the first thing I did when I got home, like back to my mom's place, was we went to go watch my nephew play hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have that on my calendar. I didn't think of it as a big thing at the time. But seeing him like look up and see me in the crowd, like that meant so much to me as a win. And when you know that family is a very core value for you, you can now recognize that win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But one thing inherent in what you were saying was this awareness that you create. Being aware of how the little wins align with yourself. What are some ways that maybe you yourself or how you work with clients to create more awareness about their life?
Oh, yeah, awareness is huge. I think it's for everything that we do. I think a lot of times we're just lacking awareness of, what we're doing, what we're eating, how we're acting. We're
Yeah.
just kind of living without that awareness. So bringing that is huge. Um, uh, I think even just to boil it down simply, just having those moments to check in with yourself.
Okay.
One of my habits within the live well pillar habits is stillness, and that simply means just taking time to have quiet, to sit with yourself in thought. Maybe that looks like just being bored for a few minutes and accepting that to be quiet, putting the phone down, putting stimulation away, to just be aware of what you're thinking. Maybe that looks like a brain dump into your journal sometimes, but maybe sometimes it's just a quick pause. I think we rush through life a good bit,
Oh yeah.
and don't settle into the moment of just take a breath. Let's pause. Let's think here. Am I living in alignment? You have to first have the values and the non-negotiables and
Right.
to give that direction. But then from there, once you've clarified that, I think it's simply just taking that moment to check in with yourself. And that could be at the start of the day. That could be having, even if you have to mark it on your calendar, I've done this before, a little lunch break
Oh, I
check
do it
in.
all the time.
Yeah.
Every day.
Am I having a good day so far? Am I doing what am I living in alignment so far for the day? And some days you can say, yes, let's, keep going, keep the focus. And other times you're like, wow, I'm not doing a great job today. I've been scrolling, or I've, not been living in alignment. And you have that check in to reset and refocus.
Yeah. I'm a big journaling guy. Like I journal incessantly. The strategy that I picked it up, again, going through a dark time in my own life, where it became very evident for me that I didn't have any core values. I didn't have the language to put to
Mm-hmm.
how I was operating in my life. And journaling was a huge unlock for me. So still to this day, I journal twice a day, every day. The first thing that I do when I open my computer is I go into a Google Doc and I turn the spell check off and I just start typing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the last
So
thing
do
I
you
do,
like to do it as a brain dump, or do you have reflective
I
like
used to
prompts?
have reflective questions. And when I was just getting into journaling, I had reflective questions. It was 5 questions. It was, what did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? What is stressing you out? What can you do right now about that stress?
That's a good
And
one.
then what are you grateful for?
Yeah.
And so I did that every single day. And one of the things I actually did alongside that was I got into reading the Daily Stoic. So I would
Mm-hmm.
read the passage of the Daily Stoic and then I would journal about whatever it was that I had read that day. Now it's more of a brain dump.
Yeah.
I go through those questions at the end of the day every day, but it's more so like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? What is your schedule going to look like? I make sure that I have my schedule for the next day all laid out.
Mm-hmm.
When am I going to train? When am I going to eat? When am I going to have my meetings? All that sort of stuff, which is already pre-planned. So I make sure that I can go to bed with a calm mind.
Yeah.
Like for me, my mind just races all day, every
Mm-hmm.
day. So for me to be able to turn off, disconnect at the end of the night, make sure that I have a good sleep, it also gives me the opportunity to discuss with my wife the things that are on my mind.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly important. Um,
I think planning is huge too, like you just
oh
mentioned.
yeah,
Just
I'm
taking
so
that
type
moment.
A, Cayt.
Me too.
Like to a T. Like if you look at my schedule, literally everything is planned out,
Yeah.
and that's what needs to be done for me to be calm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
rather than fight it, because I think a lot of us fight it. It's like, oh, you should be able to go with the flow. Maybe I fucking can't.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I know that I operate best when I'm not going with the flow.
Yeah.
And
It
then
does bring such a peace.
it brings so much peace. But for some people, that's a big stressor. Like if you put a ton of stuff on their schedule, they get so overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's always resonated with me is like, extreme ownership and discipline is freedom. So if
Yeah.
I'm extremely disciplined about everything that I do and I own my actions, well, then I'm free to do whatever I want because there's no way I'm going to fill all the hours in my day.
Right.
Although I do my best to try,
Yeah.
you know,
I think in terms of the stress there too, if you're at least carving out the time for the non-negotiables,
yeah.
you're making a priority of what needs to be done, and then don't stress yourself out with having your entire day time blocked. But if something matters to you, make time for it, and then have that margin for other things and flexibility. But it's
What
huge
are
for
some of your
clarity.
non-negotiables?
um I would say they somewhat change throughout seasons. I'm sure
Of
they're like
course.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
for most. Yeah. um Time with Cody is probably number one.
Daily.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for both of us, that's just it's huge.
Yeah.
To me, that is living. We're a team and we get to experience marriage together and life together. And I don't want to go through life not I mean, he's my best friend too. I
Yeah.
don't want to some days are less than others, but yes, absolutely. It's like, are we hanging out today in some form or fashion? Time with the Lord too, that's
Yeah.
non-negotiable for me. That's part of the stillness for the day.
Okay.
Um, and then in terms of health, some kind of movement. Um, it is very structured for me throughout the week, but I that's planned out on Sunday. I have it written down when I'm training. I obviously know what I'm training, but that's a non-negotiable. And those are the probably three biggest, I would say, for the week.
So time with your partner,
Hmm.
stillness, and then movement.
Yeah.
And then you can go through the day. I think that's
Yep.
great. And I think each one of us is going to have our own non-negotiables. Mine change based on the season. I've had seasons where I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is read for 30 minutes. I've had seasons where the first thing I do is put my coffee in a cup and sit at my desk and start working. Like there are seasons for everything. And as long as you know that what you're doing is purposeful, I think
Yeah.
you can kind of move through it. One
Yeah.
thing that I want to touch on from your story is a shift in mindset from focusing on your size and trying to get smaller to focusing on how you perform. And I think that is a common transition for many women where
Mm-hmm.
they start off, they're like, I just want to be tiny. And then they shift to, what can my body do for me?
Mm-hmm.
How is that transition for you? Like, obviously it included powerlifting, but that had to
Yeah.
have come with a little bit of friction.
Oh, for sure. And it was not a light switch moment by any means.
Right.
It was years in the works. Um, I wish I did have a moment that I could really say, like, this is what did it, because I feel like that would be helpful. And also, I think women want to hear that it can be that,
Right.
just because that's a whole lot simpler for just, do this and you're going to shift your perspective. But looking back, I think some things, I mean, I hate to say values again, but not even in the sense of core values, but knowing you have value. I think
Okay.
that
Yep.
is a big thing. Realizing that you have more to offer the world than your size, the way you look. Health is a huge part of that. So it's not to say that, we won't go on a different tangent, but it's, you offer so much more than just the way your body looks in society.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what are your strengths, trying to figure out what you do offer, and then honing in on those, trying to build skills and strength that's building that belief in your mind. I think it starts there, but then once you have that belief, it's choosing to switch the narrative in your mind, because you know truth now. But then from there, you have to, commit to practicing that narrative, but you also have to move into action. You have to do things and start to build that confidence and skill. Um, Being capable is such a good feeling. And I think with strength specifically, when you realize that you can actually do something and you can stand up under a heavy weight or lift a deadlift that, is 3 times your body weight or whatever, it's exciting.
It is for sure.
It's such an incredible experience. And I want all women to feel that in the gym, but also just in life, and realize that you offer so much and you are capable of so much, and the world is a better place with you, and it needs you to, lean into what you offer and then serve people through it.
Yeah. The beauty of weight training for me is it's like one of the only things in this world that inputs directly reflect outputs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you start squatting, you will become better at squatting.
Yeah.
And yeah, at the top end, you could put in, the amount of juice for every squeeze gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And we could talk about, the whole process of mastery for sure.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're putting in work and getting an outcome, and you almost get like a tease of that outcome, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you go to the gym, you have a good workout and you get a pump. And so the goal is like, how do I look like I look pumped all day? So that it's like a teaser of what you can kind of achieve physically,
Mm-hmm.
which that always hit home for me. But not only that, the knowledge that I can go through hardship and I can overcome hardship that I've manufactured and become a more resilient version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So like with Master Athletic Performance, our coaching company, it comes down to, I am using training as a vehicle for personal development. Because I know, and I've seen it, that the more capable I get in the weight room, the more confidence I have outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the transition point for a lot of people, men and women,
Yeah.
of I can do hard things. So if I'm in a meeting and I'm getting pressed by my boss, that's hard. Bro, I just squatted 300 for 10. I can
I
deal
can
with
do
this
this.
boss,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the same goes with nutrition, right? You put
Mm-hmm.
in the work, you make the choices, and you see the compounding interest of those choices over time in the performance.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've actually found interesting, and I think this is a great topic because your fitness goals are very well rounded, and mine are too now. One thing that I have actually struggled with with how do I put this? I want to word this correctly so that we can, have a great conversation about it. Is I used to look, especially when it came to cardiovascular activity, cardio equals fat loss.
Yeah.
I am doing cardio to burn fat. I am now doing cardio to get better at doing cardio.
Mm-hmm.
That was a profound shift for me. So the prospect of like, hey, you're going to go do an hour run this morning. You probably should have some carbs, man.
Mm-hmm.
So but that shift has been challenging. How did
Oh
you,
yeah.
how did you navigate that?
Oh yeah. That it's funny because when I finished high school and I went into college and got into powerlifting, it was all cardio, no strength, and then it was all strength and no cardio.
Mm-hmm.
And cardio was like the frowned upon. We eat donuts and do deadlifts, and that's it.
Yep.
And it was fun. That's a great season of life. Um, yeah, so I won't lie. When I got into running a few years ago, it was to hang out with Cody. He wanted to do. Well, I think no, we didn't have 50K in mind at that point, but we had just moved to Alabama, and he asked if I wanted to go run. Just for a. I think he said we would do a run, like a walk run, just for fun for an
Yeah, because
afternoon.
at this point, Cody's still big.
Oh yeah, he hadn't been running either. We did our first run together, and it was for fun, just to spend the afternoon outside. And we ran, I think, 2 miles consecutively, which I honestly didn't think I could even do at the time. But
What
we
was your
did
pace?
it.
Do you remember your pace?
No, because we didn't have anything. We didn't have our Garmin watches. We didn't even know how far we went until
You just
later. We
ran.
looked up. We just ran, and we just
Cool.
went. It was cool. We just started, and I thought we were doing a walk run, but eventually I was like, when are we stopping? When do we get to walk? And we went about 2 miles consecutively, maybe a little less, because we didn't really track. We just knew the whatever.
The loop,
But
yeah.
then we said we'll go back the next week and run, and we just kept running a little further. I think in a few weeks we said, all right, let's do a 50K. We're not much for like sprinkling things in and doing it in small
Yeah, me
amounts. We're
neither.
just like, we're all in, let's do a 50K, skip a half, skip a marathon. So we did the 50K about 6 months after we had first started running at all. And once we got into the long runs, like 15, 18, I think 21 was our longest training run. I hated it. It was so unbearable, but it was a few hours to hang out with Cody on a Saturday. Right. So that's why I initially got into it. Now, and then we did another 50K and whatnot. I think I'm probably done with races, but the shift of just using cardio for health has been huge for me. Seeing that it has a place. It's also really improved my strength, just the capacity to, be in the gym and do strength training. So I've seen benefits on both sides. And my perspective has shifted to pursue health, and there is a part of that. It's no longer at all to burn fat or burn calories or not eat. I'm going into them all fueled. And again, viewing cardio as what can I do?
Yeah. It's been a challenging shift. And I mean, I still get into a situation where I'm like, even now I've been doing this for almost 6 months and I'm like, cool. Like my easy runs are like 28-minute 5Ks. I'm like, I couldn't run for a minute when I started.
Yeah.
I remember doing 5 sets of 1-minute run, 1-minute walk, and my calves getting so blown up.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was like, what the fuck? This is stupid. And now I can go run for 30 minutes straight, no issues. And, we're good to go.
It's cool to see that again, when you come from strength and that being new, and then now you're going into cardio and that being a new skill to push and see what you're capable of.
The coolest part for me, and I think this is one of the reasons why I've become so enamored with it, is I can just go and do the thing And just by virtue of doing the thing, I'm getting better at it. I don't
Yeah.
have to track my paces. I'm doing that just so I have the data. But at the end of the day, it's just about doing the thing.
Yeah.
And something I think performance minded individuals struggle with, especially when you view your outputs in relation to your value. And so,
Mm-hmm.
returning back to what you were saying before about the value that I offer is more than just the way I look, the value that I offer is more than just how much weight I can lift.
Yeah.
Now it's, well, the value that I offer is completely disconnected from my physical performance, but the act of being physically active is part of my values now. So has that been like a big identity shift for you?
Yeah. Um, yes. I think tracking in general can really lead to a lot of that for performance driven people. Just having that number that gives you worth and whatever, whatever that is you're chasing. But um, yeah, it's been a huge identity shift to now viewing it as I have worth. So it's an extension of my body as a gift and my life as a gift.
Yeah.
I think part of that was from the, season in the hospital too, and just realizing that the ability to move and the ability to have good health is such a gift that we
Yeah.
don't lean into a lot. We always look at it as, how can I fix my body? That was a big thing for me. Like, how can I fix myself? And looking at myself as a project, and the quote, "You're the best project you'll ever work on," I agree with. I think that can be used well. Um, but I think you have to view yourself as more than just a project to fix. You're such a gift that, and it's a miracle that, all of the things working in your body at once involuntarily that we don't have to think about, we don't have to control, we don't have to do anything with, and it's just working. Like, that's a
Yeah,
miracle in itself.
for sure.
And realizing the gift of that and then taking it on as responsibility of, how can I, as an extension of my value, not to receive value, but as an extension of that worth, how do I steward my life well? How do I take extreme ownership of this gift and do my best on the days I'm given here on earth?
So I'm a big tools guy. I like to give people tools. I like to say, okay, how can we put this theoretical framework, which makes so much sense and would be a very healthy thing for people to adopt? How do they go about overcoming that performance mindset? And so, like for me, one of the things that I've done is um, I stopped looking at my watch. I do not look at my watch while I'm running. I base it purely on how am I feeling, how am I moving, and I just go.
Yeah.
So every mile it'll announce to me what my pace is. I'm like, oh cool. And it's not oh, I need to speed up. It's just oh cool.
Hmm.
And it actually lately it's been I should probably slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And so like that was one that was big for me. Or uh on my rucks that I've been doing, I actually don't pay like Cody isn't pacing the intervals on my rucks. So I only know how fast I was running after the fact.
Oh, cool.
So for me, that's been really helpful because I just run at the pace that I'm comfortable running at. And what I'm seeing is every week that pace is dropping.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the metric and still having it,
Hmm.
but using it as a validation after the fact rather than an indicator during the event. That's been really big for me. Were there anything like any tools like that you put in place? Like you mentioned when you started running, you didn't have like a Garmin, you didn't have anything, you just
Mm-mm.
ran. Like
Yeah, we
other
just,
than that, what did you do?
um, to be honest, I didn't think of it in the time. It was never an active shift of, I need to stop viewing this as performance. It truly started naturally for me when I started to appreciate life. That's
Okay.
a hard tool to, I guess,
You can't
sit there
quantify
and,
that, but yeah, I get it.
yeah, to make sense of that. I think just realizing that life has a lot of meaning and in itself, I don't have to perform a certain way to receive value or display my value. It's something that, back to the mental side, it has to be an active choice to believe it and speak that and then show up that way and, take ownership of your actions. I think it's another consistent thing that, you have to show up with consistency in doing it and choose to make that a part of your identity. It's not going to be easy during the time. It's especially when you're used to a watch or you get on your scale every morning, or maybe you use a scale for your food every day or things like that that you're used to tracking.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's choosing to, like you said, choosing to not look at your watch, and just put that aside for a little bit and realize that you can do this on your own. You don't need a number telling you that you're good enough. You know what to do, and bringing that
Yeah.
awareness of like you're capable of doing hard things, and hard looks different every day too. I don't know with what you said with Cody. Is he doing RPE instead of giving you a pace?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just in terms of RPE, like you're showing up with an assigned effort, but the effort might look different
Yeah.
day to day. And so having those values to give you direction and stay in alignment, but some days it's going to look different. But as long as you know, like with an RPE, you did an RPE 8, you gave an 8 effort, and that was your 8 for the day. It keeps you in track of like that is now good enough, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the things that I struggle with, especially when communicating to people whose this quote comes up a lot in the podcast. It's like the hardest thing you've ever done is the hardest thing you've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an anchor to what the hardest thing I've ever done is emotionally. I have an anchor to what the hardest thing I've ever done is physically. I have an anchor to the hardest thing I've ever done in business, in whatever, even in dieting. I've pushed myself to the limit of losing as much body fat as I can, right? So it's like, I know what the hardest thing I've ever done is for me,
Mm-hmm.
but communicating that to somebody who's never had a hardship as hard as mine, how do you communicate the, how do you communicate what someone is capable of when they don't have an anchor point
Mm-hmm.
to believe it for themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I think sometimes just simply believing in them is, and
Mm-hmm.
when you feel like someone believes in you, your a confidence is almost instilled in you
Yeah.
and encourages you to show up in a different way, to do hard things. So whether that's through, walking the walk and showing what is possible, um, speaking things over people before they believe it themselves, but having them continue to hear like you're capable of doing hard things. And the hardest thing you've done is the hardest thing you've ever done. So it's, you can't compare your hard to someone else's. But what is challenging you, and those are the things to lean into, and there's room for growth there. um, I think encouraging, it's so hard to encourage the growth mindset, I think. um, but I think a lot of these things I hear in the sense that people think it's just their personality, it's the way they are, and that is a fixed mindset. But leaning into like some of these things don't have to be the way you are. um,
Yeah.
it's it's so astounding how many things people just lean into and they're like, oh, it's just the way I am. Well, if you don't want it to be that way, then you're capable of
Of
changing that.
changing it. Yeah.
Yeah. um,
Yeah, I think the vicarious confidence definitely holds true. Like if you
yeah.
continuously tell someone that they're capable of something, eventually they'll believe you because they'll be provided with evidence if they keep showing up, like you said.
Right. Yeah, they have to show up. There has to be the action on their end as well. And when you do that, you every time you stack a little win, and they seem small in the moment, but every little win, you're building confidence with yourself. Um, these are little things. One that comes to mind is, a big stickler for never hitting snooze in the morning.
Oh, me
Um,
too.
if you tell yourself you're going to get up at a certain time, set the alarm and get up when that alarm goes off, because that is the very first action you get to do for the whole day. And I think it sets a trickle into your whole day of showing yourself that you do what you say you're going to do. And you have to give yourself that confidence first. And it's not easy, I guess, but it is a very simple way to start the day off with building confidence.
That is a fantastic tool. And I think I'm going to say this. People might chastise me for it, and I don't care. If you hit snooze in the morning, you're a bitch.
Yes, I
Like,
totally agree.
I know you would never use that language, but if you're a person who hits snooze in the morning, you're a
Hmm.
bitch.
Yeah,
And
that is a huge one for me.
look, my alarm goes off at 4:10 every morning. I have a rule that I cannot turn my alarm off until I'm standing.
Yeah.
And at first that took a lot of discipline because I'm like, oh my God, it's 4 a.m. But at the end of the day, if I keep my alarm buzzing, like my watch like vibrates, it doesn't make a sound
Hmm.
because I find that way
Yeah,
more
me too.
pleasant to wake up to. Plus, it doesn't wake up my wife. But if my watch keeps buzzing and my hand is on the bed, guess who's going to wake up? My wife. So
Hmm.
not only am I a bitch, I'm an asshole. But I
Yeah,
mean, that little thing, that's a win first thing in the morning,
first
especially if
thing.
this might sound silly, but there's an element of confidence that comes from the fact that you're like, I just woke up before 99.9% of people.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
You're like, I'm kind of a badass.
Yeah.
So if you start your day with a little bit of spice,
Hmm.
it goes a long way.
Yeah. I think getting up early in general, like you said, it's like that's already a hard thing. So now
Yeah.
you're doing something that you told yourself you're going to do and you kept that promise. You're also doing something that a lot of people don't want to do. And you just get more done throughout the day if you get up early. It's a life hack, I think, for sure.
I'm a big believer. So like, have you heard of the idea of chronotypes? So people who are
Oh,
night
yeah. A
owls
natural
versus
sleep.
morning larks or
Yeah.
whatever.
Hmm.
I think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
I think that's an excuse validated
Yeah.
by research to allow people to be lazy.
Yep. I agree.
Because listen, you're not functioning at your highest level at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
But if you wake up consistently at 4 a.m., 4:30 to 7:30 in the morning, you are going to be the most productive you can possibly be,
Hmm.
especially if you don't eat.
Yeah, I think the consistency there is huge. And, whether it's the weekday or weekend, we're in bed at the same time and we are not awake at 4:15 on the weekends. That's somewhat of a lie, but we sleep a little bit longer on the weekends.
Yeah, it might be
But
5, might be 5:30,
yeah,
right?
it's still we're up a lot earlier than a lot of people. But the consistent bedtime schedule and a wind down routine and really keeping that as a priority does set your day up for success. But yeah, I'm all about looking for little wins throughout the day, and a lot of them they seem very small. People might not think that you wake up and think, I'm tired, I'll just take an extra 5 minutes. But honestly, what is an extra 5 minutes going to help you with?
Nothing.
It's not going to give you any more energy. Just get up, get your day started. You'll have confidence. That win is already checked off,
Yeah.
and you're not living with, the tiny little bit of, wow, I don't do what I say I'm gonna do.
Of bitch assness.
Yeah, that.
um, so we've talked a lot about habits here. Like we haven't used the word, but we've talked a lot about habits.
Mhm.
We've talked about awareness. We've talked about stewarding your life and having agency over your life. How does the Hoopy way, or how does Hoopy's coaching facilitate this sort of discovery for its clients?
Yeah, we haven't used the word habit, which is surprising. So the way I like to start things off is usually with encouraging people to dream, um, to think of your future self. who you want to be, and thinking deeper than I want to lose X amount of weight, or I even want to lift a certain amount of weight. But who do you want to be? What qualities do you want to embody? Who is the person that maybe someone in your life, or a role model that you've had, that they have these characteristics that they carry with confidence or poise or elegance or whatever they may be. And what qualities do you want to live with? And just dreaming first, and then starting to figure out your core values. That is obviously a really big one for me. But exploring beliefs that maybe you grew up with, and thoughts you've had, your story, reflecting a lot. And from your past, like, what is it that you want to carry with you, and what are some things that maybe you were brought up thinking that you don't necessarily actually believe, but they were important in the way that you were nurtured and raised, and what you want to carry with you, and what you want to change, leave behind, and whatnot. I think it's pivotal to figure out your strengths and what you offer, what you're naturally good at, and then trying to hone in on those. I think a lot of times we think like, oh, I'm not good at this, or I'm weak at this, and we focus there. But first of all, trying to kind of focus on what you're good at and figuring out your strengths and building confidence and wins there. In terms of habits and the actual like pillars of those, I think from there it's, figuring out the non-negotiables from the values that you stated, what matters to you. And then with the lifestyle pillars, they're ways to approach life in a way that you can steward that well, doing things that are just naturally happening throughout the day. Sleep is one of them. So it's how can we get quality sleep and steward that well. And then I can go through the list of, they're all 9 S's if we want.
No. That's okay. But essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to get down to the core of who you're working with, and then you're reverse engineering a process to get them to where they want to be.
Yes. I love reverse engineering.
Well, that's how you get clarity. And I think having systems within your coaching practice to achieve the desired outcome comes with the territory. I think most people try to stay surface level, and because that's what's sexy and that's what sells, right? You want to lose 10 pounds, do these 5 things.
Yeah.
It's like, cool. But the problem is that once you get there, if you don't have a deep understanding of why you wanted that in the first place, you're not going to keep it because you're not going to value it. And then you end up in this yo-yo cycle.
Yeah. The identity transformation is
yes, absolutely. Part. So one thing that I ask every person who comes on the podcast is, if you had a billboard on the side of the highway that everyone could see when they drive by, what would it say?
I think live fully alive, pursue excellence. That would be.
What does being fully alive and pursuing excellence look like for you?
Living fully alive, I think, really ties into being the active participant of your life and showing up who you are authentically, and living life to the fullest, but not in the
YOLO type of way.
Yes, not in the YOLO type of way, but in the let's live this life with purpose and meaning, and show up and pursue excellence in all that we're doing, fully alive.
What does excellence look like for you?
To me, excellence is simply doing what I can control to the best of my ability. So seeing what is in my power, and then what am I capable of doing here? And then that's another fun one to, over time, see that excellence has changed. Now you can do better. You can do harder things. You can do scarier things. And what, was once excellent, that can always shift too. But it's doing your best in the moment with what you can control.
Yeah. When Cody was on the podcast, we talked about that area of proximal development where, you challenge someone just outside their level of comfort, and then you just kick that can further down the line.
Yeah.
And it's pretty incredible how far down the line you can kick that can if you continue to pursue that day after day, week after week, month after month, and then, all the way decade after decade. And even what that definition of excellence ends up being.
Yeah.
Right. Cayt, I've really enjoyed our conversation here today. Where can people find you?
I have too. I've had a great time talking, Paul. We are on Instagram. The Hoopie Strength and Conditioning is at Hoopie Strength. And then my Instagram is at Cayt Miller. We're also on YouTube at Hoopie Strength as well.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Everyone, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you so much, Paul. Have a good one.
You too.